Hello and welcome to this Get Started video for the TriCaster Broadcast. TriCaster Broadcast is your all-in-one portable live production facility that allows you to set up in minutes and deliver a television-style production from anywhere to anywhere. The TriCaster itself is a small device, a little bit bigger than a shoebox, which is completely portable and sets up in minutes. The first thing that we want to do when we're setting up our TriCaster is assemble the hardware portion of the device. As we look at the back of the device, we can see that depending upon the version of the broadcast that you have, we either have connections for a keyboard and a mouse as PS2 connections, or the latest revisions of the TriCaster broadcast have USB only. We have an Ethernet connection. This is a gigabit Ethernet connection, allowing us to connect to a network at gigabit speeds. We have a variety of USB and FireWire connectors. Now, the video monitor for the interface of the TriCaster gets connected to the video card. The video card is the card that has the DVI output and the RGB output. And most of the time I will connect my interface monitor to the RGB output. It could be connected to either. Just remember that whichever output of that video card that you don't use will be your VGA output for the TriCaster. So I'll connect my monitor to the VGA output. You'll notice next to the video card there is a card that has two 15-pin connectors on the back of it, and there are plastic covers over these. That's on purpose. That card is not for your use, and you should keep those covers on and not use those connectors. Once we have our keyboard, our mouse, and our monitor cable connected, and our Ethernet cable connected if it's applicable, we're ready to go around to the front of the machine and connect our audio and video sources. On the front of the broadcast, we see a variety of connectors down the left side. These are our video inputs. First, we have our tally light connectors. These are just mini jacks that are designed to work with a 5-volt tally light system. This can be something as simple as an LED soldered to the end of a cable that's plugged into this jack. Next, we have the connectors for connecting all of the different types of video that we can bring into the TriCaster. This can be component, composite, YC, or SDI. We can see that one of the posts is marked composite. This is where our composite signal is going to come in. If you have an RCA cable, not a BNC cable, the TriCaster does come with a variety of BNC to RCA adapters. These can be used to use a standard RCA patch cord and connect to the front of the TriCaster. If we're going to be using YC or S-Video, the TriCaster also comes with an adapter that adapts two of the prongs on the front of the TriCaster into an S-Video jack. And the two prongs that we're going to use are these two prongs right here. And you'll notice one of them has a R over the top. It's R-Y. That's where you're going to connect the red BNC connector. And the green one is going to go into our composite output jack. Of course, if we're connecting component, we have three wires. We have RGB, red, green, and blue. So the R-Y is your red wire, the B-Y is your blue wire, and then composite is where your green wire will go. Now, if we're using an SDI signal into the TriCaster, we simply connect to the SDI BNC connector. Notice we have 4 audio inputs on the front of the TriCaster. These can be either 1/4-inch jacks or XLR connectors. Either will go into this jack. It's a combination jack. We have a variety of audio outputs. First, we have our headphone out, and we can plug our headphones in there, or this could be used as a secondary audio output. It does have an independent volume control in the mixer inside of the TriCaster. And then we have 1/4-inch out and RCA audio outs from the front of the TriCaster. Next, we have our video outs, and the top row is our program video out. Again, this can be component, composite, YC, or SDI. And if you're using SDI, for instance, your composite is also still live. So you do have several different video outs hot at the same time coming out of the TriCaster. Of course, depending upon which connectors you're using, this will determine what's available to you. Just underneath that, we have a row of outputs that can be switched into two different modes. One can be a hardware preview monitor, where we can actually have an external monitor showing us the preview bus. Or it can be switched into an effects mode, which allows us to output to a switcher with alpha channel only to use the TriCaster as a graphics device to feed another switcher. Underneath that, we have our AES EBU audio connectors for digital audio into the TriCaster, and we also have our Genlock connection to Genlock the TriCaster to our cameras, if we should so desire. Now that we have all our audio and video connections connected to the TriCaster, let's go ahead and fire it up. Make sure that you have your power cord connected to the back of the TriCaster, and if you try to fire the TriCaster up with the power button in the front and you get no response, you might want to check the small switch on the back of the power supply to make sure that the power supply is also turned on. When we first fire up the TriCaster, we will be presented with a screen to register the TriCaster. You can either do this online or by calling NewTek customer service. You definitely want to get your TriCaster registered. It comes with a specific amount of time allowing you to use the device before it times out, but once it times out, until you register it, you'll not be able to use your TriCaster. So make sure you get your TriCaster registered right away. And again, if you have any issues with that, you can call NewTek customer service at the number on the screen. The first time you run the TriCaster, it's going to ask you if you would like to calibrate the device, and click OK. The TriCaster will calibrate itself and be ready to go. This process will take just a few minutes. Once you've calibrated the TriCaster, you won't have to do this again unless we reset the configs in some future point. Once you fire up the TriCaster and you get past the registration splash, it's going to take you directly into the TriCaster interface itself. But we're not quite ready to be here yet. I want to set the TriCaster up and talk about a couple of different modes that we can run within. So let's go to our administration screen. We do this by clicking on the small X in the upper right-hand corner and clicking on the admin button. The administration screen allows us to do several things with our TriCaster. We're going to talk about configuring the TriCaster. Right down here in the lower right-hand corner, we can click on Configure TriCaster. This will bring up our TriCaster configuration options. Now, I'm working with a multi-standard version, which allows me to switch between PAL or NTSC. You may only have NTSC available to you here. This is where we can select our aspect ratio if we want to work in 4:3 or 16:9. And we can also run in two different modes. We can run in the 6 independent input mode, or we can run with the ISO monitor mode with only 3 inputs. And we're going to take a look at both of these different ways of running the TriCaster. We're going to start out running in the 3 input mode. And this will actually eliminate inputs 4, 5, and 6 on the TriCaster, making it a 3 input switcher. But it does have some advantages over the 6 input mode. Let's go ahead and launch the TriCaster. In the 3 input mode, we actually have ISO preview monitors for our incoming cameras. I only have 2 cameras hooked up right now, and we can see that we have camera 1, 2, and 3 displayed right on the interface. And this shows us our live incoming video inputs to those 3 inputs. We also can see whatever's coming in on our external channel. This could be an external computer source coming in through IVGA. We have our 2 DDRs. These are our 2 internal video playback devices. Our background generator and our black input for fading up and down to black. One of the things that I like about the 3 input mode is I can actually use these monitors as part of the switch. And what I mean by that is whatever is currently going out live is always going to be represented by the red box around whatever that input is. And whatever is currently on preview is represented by the green outline. Simply by left-clicking on any of these inputs right on the preview monitor a single time puts that input into preview for me. So a single click gets us into preview. A double click will actually cut that to live. So double-clicking allows us to cut right to an input, and again, single-clicking allows us to bring that input into preview. This is very handy when you start running a switch and you want to visually select what input you want to switch to next. We also have our preview and our live output monitors being shown on the interface here, and these are showing us whatever is currently on the live bus and the preview bus. The preview monitor is multifunctional though. It has a pop-up just below it. This allows us to change the preview monitor into a waveform monitor, chrominance and luminance, or just luminance, and a vector scope. Let's take a look at the 6-input interface and see how it's a little bit different. Back in the administration panel, I'm going to go back to Configure TriCaster, and I'm going to select the 6-input mode and go ahead and relaunch the TriCaster. Here in the 6-input mode, you can see that we've gained 3 inputs on our switcher, inputs 4, 5, and 6, but we no longer have our isolated preview monitors. We can now have previews of our 2 DDRs, our external source, this would be an incoming computer via IVGA, and we have our waveform monitor vector scope actually displayed over here. Again, you've got a pop-up right here for changing the waveform monitor vector scope into its different forms, and we also have a quad view button here, and if we turn that off, it will take our waveform monitor vector scope to a full screen over there in the corner. I'm going to go ahead and switch the TriCaster back into its 3-input mode for the duration of this Get Started video. Everything that we talk about will work exactly the same between the 3-input mode and the 6-input mode. The only difference is the difference in the interface that we've already discussed. Once we have all of our video inputs connected to the front of the TriCaster, we're ready to set them up in software. We want to go to the Input Setup tab in our TriCaster, and this allows us to access our proc amp controls. Right at the top of the Input Setup tab, we have a pop-up menu which allows us to select which input we're going to be adjusting. But right next to it, we have a button called Follow Preview. Go ahead and make sure that Follow Preview is turned on so that the little blue light is actually lit up. And Follow Preview sets up the TriCaster so that whatever input we have currently on the preview bus is the input that we're going to be modifying with the controls down here in our Input Setup tab. Depending upon what sort of video input we're using, you'll have different controls available to you in the proc amp area. If we're using YC or composite, we can use brightness, contrast, hue, and saturation. If we're using a component signal, we can use the U and V offsets. We also have the ability to auto-calibrate the proc amp if we're using component, composite, or YC. This means we can turn our camera into color bar mode and it will automatically set up the camera for you. As you can see from the pop-up, we can set to 75 or 100% bars. I usually flip my camera into color bar mode and set it to 75 bars, and it sets up the proc amp for me. Now, if I'm manually adjusting the proc amp, I can of course adjust brightness, contrast, hue, and saturation. But I may make a mistake. And if I do, double-clicking on any one of these knobs resets that individual control back to its default position. If I have manipulated all of the controls and I've gotten everything way out of hand and I just want to get back to square one, you can always click on Restore Defaults and it will reset all of the controls back to their default position. We also have a termination control here. If you plan on looping the video in and out of an input, you may want to be able to terminate that input, and that can be done using the termination control here inside of your proc amp. Now we simply go to input number 2, input number 3, and we make sure that all of our inputs are set up, the proc amp is adjusted appropriately, and we're happy with all our video signals. Again, you always have the ability to use your waveform monitor and vector scope to make sure that these signals are legal, or you can use these devices to match your cameras. Now let's go ahead and take a basic tour of the interface. As we mentioned before, the top portion of the interface here is my preview area. It allows me to preview some of my inputs into the TriCaster. Also allows me to preview the preview bus and whatever is going out live. We do have some controls here for this monitor, and these controls only adjust what's on screen. It is not adjusting the output. So these are only to adjust your on-screen or in-display monitors. We also have a button for bringing up our zebra. This allows us to see hot spots within our video. We have an illegal button, which allows us to see if we have any illegal luminance levels, if we're too bright or too dark. And we can also switch into underscan mode if we want to. Again, these controls only adjust your in-display monitors. They have no effect on the output of the TriCaster. Next, we have our switching area, and this is where we can control the switch. We have our live bus, and this is what's going to go out live. Again, if I left click and punch anything up on my live bus, it's going to immediately cut to that input. We have our preview bus, And this allows me to select things into preview before I make a transition, a cut, or a fade to that input. We have our T-bar area and our auto and take. Take will cut between the two sources. Whatever's on live and whatever's on preview are going to switch places. Auto is going to affect whatever transition you currently have selected in the transition area over here. I'm going to select the fade, which is always the first effect available in every bank. We have 5 banks of transitions available over here, and the fade is always the very first one in the upper left corner. With the fade selected, if I click on auto, we will get a fade between whatever's on preview out to live. Now we have some keyboard shortcuts that help us out a lot here. The Enter key, either the one on the numeric keypad or the one on the alphanumeric keypad, they both do the same thing, and they will execute a take or a cut. The space bar on your keyboard is the same as the auto button, and it will execute whatever transition is currently selected. Now, in our transition area, as I said before, we do have 5 banks of transitions available, and the TriCaster comes with a wide variety of DVEs, or digital video effects. So if I don't want to cut or a fade, I can simply click on one of the DVEs and then execute it by hitting auto or space bar. And you see we get a nice fancy transition. Again, there are a wide variety of these. We have 3D DVEs. We have classic trajectory type DVEs, classic page peel type DVEs. And if we go through our banks, we have classic wipes, fades, and again some very unique 3D DVEs that are only available to you in the TriCaster. Now, if I want to change the DVEs that are available in any of the banks, or if I come out here to bank 5, it's empty. If I want to populate bank 5, I have an add button right here. I simply click add. This is going to pop open a requester. Now, whenever you're looking at a requester inside of the TriCaster, we have some shortcuts down here, and these allow me to instantaneously navigate to certain directories. So transitions should already be one of your options. If you click on transitions, it will bring you to your transition folder. Inside of the transition folder, we have some more folders full of different types of wipes, our 3D wipes, our blinds, our compressions, our page curls, fades, trajectories, wipes, and then some different types of crossfades. I'm going to go into 3D. And again, these are all transitions that are available that come with the TriCaster. I'm going to move this over a little bit, revealing the banks of effects. Now, if I want to use one of these effects, I simply left click on it, drag into the position where I want it, and let go. Now, if I click on it one time, it's ready to go. Again, space bar to execute that effect. Even if I am on a bank that's already full of effects, if I click add, I can left click and I can drag an effect over the top of one of the existing effects to replace it. Click on it, and it's ready to go. Now, you may have noticed that when I click on an effect, we've got this little ready light right here. And as I click on an effect, it takes a few seconds sometimes for that light to turn into ready. On the very basic effects, like a fade, it's going to be instantaneous. But on the fancier 3D effects, it may take a second for it to load. And another thing to be aware of is the fancier the effect, or the longer the effect, the longer it's going to take to load. And if we're doing more things in the TriCaster, if we're playing things back from our DDRs, if we're using the CPU for other things and using the hard drive access for other things, that can lengthen the time it takes for that DVE to be ready. If you should happen to execute a DVE before the ready light is ready, it's simply going to run the last DVE that was loaded into the system. So it's not going to be a problem, except for the fact it's not going to play the DVE that you thought it was going to play. It's going to play the last one. So just be aware of the light. Make sure that light goes to ready, and it's a solid blue line, and the selected DVE will play for you. Now, DVEs can also be run in reverse. We have a reverse button right here that allows us to run them in reverse. Or, as I said, the space bar allows us to go ahead and do the transition that's currently selected. If you hold down Shift and the space bar, this will run that DVE in reverse. This can be very handy when using the TriCaster, especially when you're talking about something like sports production. Very often we will want to fly an instant replay or slow motion into the scene. When that instant replay or slow motion is complete, we want to fly it back out with the exact same effect that we flew it in with. And using the space bar and the shift space to do this is a very easy way to accomplish this. We also have variable speeds at which we can run the transitions. We have slow, medium, and fast available to us by clicking on these buttons. And we have a little knob next to that, which you can actually dial in speeds in between or greater than fast or slower than slow. I use medium speed as my default transition speed most of the time. I have an advance button, and the advance button will advance to the next DVE after executing a DVE. So if I click on the first one and I turn the advance button on, we go ahead and do that transition. As soon as that transition is complete, it will load the next transition. I do that one. As soon as that transition is complete, it will load the next one, and so on. We do have, as I said, 5 banks of effects to choose from, and we can populate them with the effects that we want. And we do have direct access to not only the banks, but also the effects using the keyboard. Using the numeric keypad on the keyboard, the first number that you type in is going to take you to the associated bank. So again, if I type in number 3, it's going to take me to bank 3. The next number that I type in is going to take me to the effect. So if I type in 1, it's going to take me to bank 1, and then the number 1 takes me to the first effect. If I type 1 and 2, it takes me to the second effect. 1 and 3 takes me to the third effect, and so forth. So again, if I went to bank number 4 by hitting 4 and then typed 3, it's going to go ahead and load up the third effect in that bank for me. Right next to the transition bank, we have our overlay section. And the overlay section is where we control the graphics, both still, motion graphics, scrolls, and crawls that can be overlaid over the top of our live video source. We'll cover the overlay section in detail a little bit later in the presentation. Just below that, we have our audio mixer. The audio mixer allows us to mix our 4 incoming audio signals that are coming into the front of the TriCaster with any internal audio sources that we have inside of the TriCaster. We have 2 DDRs inside the TriCaster. These could be playing video clips that have audio associated with them, and we might want to use this mixer to mix the audio coming from our DDRs in with our external audio. We also have an AES EBU slider that allows us to mix in the digital audio that we have coming in to the front of the TriCaster as well. Now, the audio mixer is a tabbed interface. We have an advanced tab. This allows us a little bit of equalization, and we can also pan the audio to the left or the right. We also have a setup tab, and this allows us to choose the type of input, whether it's mic, line, or variable gain, and we can even supply phantom power, and we have a little bit of trim. Now, we also have the ability to solo any of these tracks to the headphones. This is our headphone volume control, and again, this is independent from the master volume control that we have down here. So we can solo single or multiple tracks simply by turning them on to the headphones so that we can hear them before they go out live. On our 4 incoming inputs in the front of the TriCaster, we also have talkover. Talkover will dip all of the rest of the audio in the TriCaster, making whatever you're selecting as your talkover channel dominant over everything else. Then when you turn talkover off, it will readjust all the audio. We also have a mute button down here, which allows us to mute any of these tracks. And the 4 incoming inputs in the front of the TriCaster can either be 4 independent inputs, or we can lock inputs together, and now they work as a stereo input. To the left of our audio mixer, we have our modular tab-based interface, and this allows us to access all the rest of the power in the TriCaster. We'll cover each one of these tabs in depth. We also have our record live output and our stream live output buttons. These are associated with the record and stream tab, and this is how we activate the ability to record our final output back to the TriCaster or activate our live stream out of the TriCaster. Again, we'll cover this in detail as we get into recording and streaming. We also have 4 tabs along the top of the interface, and everything that we've been working with right now has been in our live production tab. We also have a capture media tab for capturing clips and other types of media into the TriCaster. We have an edit media tab, which is our full-blown nonlinear editor that comes with the TriCaster. And we have our edit text tab, which is our full-blown character generator that comes with the TriCaster. Also notice that we have an output showing us the current mode that we're in. We're in ISO mode, which is our 3-camera mode, and we're also in NTSC at 16:9 aspect ratio. Now with TriCaster Broadcast, we also have a configure button up here, and let's go ahead and click on that. This allows us to choose the output mode, whether we're going to be outputting in either YC or component. This does not affect the SDI output. So again, this would be a secondary output if we're using our SDI output. We can also use a component output or a YC output or a composite output. Now we can also set up what our preview monitor is going to be using as an output. So again, that was the second row of video outputs on the front of the TriCaster. And we can set that up to output component, YC, and again, SDI would be hot there as well. We can also set it up to whether or not we want to use the preview out as an alpha channel out from our configuration button here. And our alpha channel out can be set up with a delay, and we can adjust that delay using our control right here. We also have some gen lock controls down here for setting up our gen lock if we are gen locking the TriCaster with cameras or into house sync of a studio. Basic overview of the TriCaster interface. Now let's go ahead and take a look at actually doing a switch with the TriCaster. So when we're doing a switch with the TriCaster, we have our live bus. Again, we can simply punch things up on the live bus to send them out live. We can select what we want to go live on our preview bus, select the transition, hit the space bar to affect that transition. Again, in the 3-camera ISO mode, we can bring things up on preview by single-clicking them up here in our preview monitors. Double-clicking would take them live. This is only available in the ISO 3-input mode. When we go to the 6-input mode, you cannot use the previews of your DDRs or your external as ways of bringing things up on preview or cutting them live. You have to do it from the preview bus. We have some keyboard shortcuts that help us with this as well. On the alphanumeric portion of your keypad, above the letters, you've got numbers 1 through 9. These will bring up things on the preview bus. So punching these numbers on your alphanumeric keypad will allow you to bring things up on preview. The F keys on your keyboard allow you to punch things onto the program or the live bus. So F1 brings up input 1 live, F2 brings up input 2 live. So it's as simple as finding what I want on my preview bus, selecting a transition, hitting the space bar, find the next thing that I want to bring up live on the preview bus, select whatever transition you might want to use, hit the space bar. Again, always remember that if I bring something up down here, I can simply hit the Enter key to instantly cut to it. Now I'd like to talk a little bit about live set technology. Live set technology is what we use in the TriCaster to create our virtual set effects like what you're seeing me in right now. Let's go ahead and take a look at how we set up a live set. We're going to start out with a piece of green screen footage coming into the TriCaster. Now this is actually coming in from a DVD player, but it could just as easily be a live camera bringing in someone on a green screen. The first thing that we need to do is set up the key. When we deal with live sets, we're going to go to the Input Setup tab, and inside of Input Setup, we're going to go ahead and put the input that we're going to try and set the key on both live and preview. This way, we'll be able to see the results on our output monitor as we're tweaking the key. The first thing that we're going to do is select the color that we're going to key out, and we do this in our live matte area down here at the bottom of the interface. So I'm going to come to the color swatch, right-click and hold, and I get an eyedropper, and I continue to hold the right mouse button. And now as I move the eyedropper up, you'll see that every color that it travels over is represented by that color swatch. So I'm just going to come right up to the green area on my preview monitor here and let go. That selects that color green for the key. I'll go ahead and turn Live Matte on, and we can see the start of our key. Now, we've got tolerance and smoothing controls. I'm going to go ahead and left click and drag them all the way down to nil. And now we can start to bring them up, and we can get rid of all of the green. We're basically broadening the range of green that we're keying out by taking that up. Of course, the higher up we go, the more we're going to key out until we eventually key it all out. So you want to just get it to where we've got a nice key on him. We've got the background removed. Now, depending upon your key source, you may want to apply some smoothing. And smoothing will smooth out the edges of your key. Now again, you don't want to go too far on that because it will start to erode away the key and start to make some transparent areas. Things that you want to remember when setting up a key are, we want to make sure that we have the best possible video signal coming in, and this would of course be an SDI signal, or if you don't have SDI available, go with component. You can key with an S-video signal, but the quality will not be as great. And you can also key with a composite signal, but the quality will be the worst of all of the selections. You also want to make sure that your lighting is set up appropriately on your background. If we can go to a shot of our entire studio here, you can see that we just have some green paper taped up on the wall behind us. We're using two lights in front of me to evenly light the green wall behind me. And we have a hair light back behind me that highlights me from the back, which also helps define the key a little bit better. Now we've got the key set up, and again, we set our smoothing and our tolerance, and you just need to play with those controls a little bit to get the best possible key. You also have some edge controls here. These allow you to expand and contract the mat around the talent, so we can bring the mat out or we can shrink it in. This is a great way to help alleviate edges if you're having some problem with edges around the talent. We can also blur on X and Y, and of course blurring on X blurs in from the sides, and blurring on Y blurs in from the top and bottom. So again, if we're having some troubled areas on some edges, we can blur them or contract or expand them. We do also have some spill suppression available, and this will remove any leftover green. Now, you do want to be careful when dealing with this because you're replacing the green with grayscale, and it is possible to actually wash out the color in the image that you're working with. So just be aware of that when you're working with your spill suppression, and make sure that you don't overuse it and end up washing out your footage. We also have garbage matting available, and this brings in a hard line from the left, the right, the top, and the bottom. And this can be used to remove something that's left over in the scene, maybe a jib or a boom, or maybe your green screen doesn't completely fill the area, and we can use this to clean it up. And we'll take a look at how this works once we actually get into the set. So we've got our key set up, and we key over whatever is on the effects row. So anything that I punch up on the effects row now is what our talent is going to be keyed over, either a live input, our DDRs, text from our character generator, our background generator, whatever we want to key them over, we just punch it up on the effects row. Now that we've got the key looking good, we're ready to set up the virtual set. I'm going to come over to the live set area. And inside the live set area, I have two pop-ups. I have the scene pop-up and the shot pop-up. And the scene pop-up allows me to choose the virtual set that I want to work with. And as I mouse over the virtual sets, I get a little thumbnail preview of what each one of these sets is going to look like. And I can pick it and have an idea of what that set's going to look like before we use it. You'll notice that in my pop-up here, I have a variety of additional virtual sets down here. These sets are available in NewTek's Live Set Sports Pack. So these are additional virtual sets that you can buy from NewTek that add additional functionality, things like two people on a virtual set instead of just one person on a virtual set, and a wide variety of other shot variables that we don't have in the virtual sets that come with the TriCaster. To access these virtual sets and their added functionality, you would want to purchase the Live Set Pack from your NewTek reseller. I'm going to go ahead and choose the Demo Studio. And the first thing that I can do to make sure that my talent is lined up properly is do what we call a camera alignment. So I'm going to, under the Shot pull down, choose Align Cameras and turn on the live set. Now you'll notice when I turn on the live set that it produces an outline. And we now want to zoom the camera in and out and pan the camera so that our talent is basically inside that outline. It doesn't have to be perfect, but we want it to be as close as we can. And this makes sure that the talent is going to be the appropriate size and aspect to fit into our virtual sets. Got the camera aligner and I'm happy with my alignment. I'm now ready to put him into a virtual set. Now I have 3 different set shot variables here. I have a center shot, a close-up, and a right. And this is my center shot. He's aligned to the center shot aligner, and he's framed up right in the center of the frame. So we're going to choose center shot, and with live set turned on, we now have placed him inside of a virtual set. Now once we place someone into a virtual set, we have variables down here, these thumbnails that show up in the interface. And these variables are sometimes levels of zoom or sometimes different versions of the scene, adding an over-the-shoulder monitor, things along those lines. Now this particular set is 4 levels of zoom, and you'll see that when I click on this thumbnail, we back him off to here, and then we back him off to here, and then we back him all the way off to here. Now I do want to zoom in a little bit and show you that with this particular incoming source, there's a black line that is traveling across the top. Because this is coming in from a DVD player, there is a black line that you normally wouldn't see because it's outside of the viewing area of the screen. But when we're shrinking this down and keying it on a polygon, you can see that we have this leftover black line that doesn't get keyed out. And this is the perfect item to use our garbage mat on. I can come to the top control here and just crank it down, and of course we can make that line disappear. Now if I keep going, we're going to cut right into him and we can just start to cut him off. So it is a hard line coming down from the top, but I just bring it down far enough to get rid of that line. And you'll even notice that that line causes a shadow in the final output because all of our shadows and reflections are all real time inside of the TriCaster. So we eliminate that line, we eliminate the shadow, we complete the illusion. Now again, we've got our 4 levels of zoom that we can work with this one input coming into the TriCaster. Now whenever we deal with a virtual set, a lot of times we'll have an on-screen monitor. We can put whatever we want in this on-screen monitor simply by punching it up on the effects row. Just like anything that you punch up on the effects row is what you were keying over when we didn't have the virtual set engaged. Once we engage the virtual set, now anything that we punch up on the effects row is what's going to show up in our on-screen monitor. And I can go ahead and play that video from our DDR. You can see now that we have video playing back. I go ahead and zoom in. You can see that video is actually being reflected in the desk. And we have an incredible virtual set illusion that we can work with. Now let's go ahead and set up another input. I'm going to come over to camera 3. Now this is the same person, but the camera angle is slightly different. And if we go ahead and fire up our camera aligner, we can see that this is set up for what we call a right camera or a right shot. So again, I do the same process that I did before. I'm going to pick the color green off of the interface. I'm going to go ahead and turn on Live Mat to establish the key. I could then tweak my key. And one thing I didn't show you last time we were tweaking the key is we do have a preview mode over here. And if I turn on the preview mode, it will just show me the mat. So I can look at the white area, make sure there are no sparkly areas in the center of it or anything like that, and really look at the key just as an alpha channel. And then turning off preview brings us back to the full color output. Now that I've got the key set up and I'm happy with that, I'm going to go ahead and choose the set, and we're going to choose the same virtual set, but we're going to choose a different camera angle. We're going to choose the right camera angle as he was set up with the right camera aligner. And now, when I turn on the live set, he's also in the same virtual set, but as we back off with our 4 levels of zoom, you can see that we're backing off to the right of the desk instead of backing off to the center of the desk or zooming in to the center and backing off from the center as we do in this other shot. So we have established 2 different camera angles within the same virtual set here, both with 4 levels of zoom. Now that we have this set up, we can do something amazing. And we can start to do a switch between 8 virtual cameras. What I mean by that is I'm going to put camera 2 on preview, and I'm going to pick my establishing shot, my close-up shot, And I'm going to hit the Enter key to take that over to my live output. And that's my establishing shot that I want to start with. Now, I can choose which zoom level or variable I want to go to. Let's say I want to go to this one. I'm going to choose a fade from my transition area and hit the spacebar. Now again, because preview swapped, I'm now adjusting the other virtual set, the one that's on preview. And I can choose a different focal length and transition to that. Again, yet a different focal length. I want to stay on my fade here, so I'll turn advance off. And we can fade out to there, and again, to here, to here. And I have not duplicated a shot yet, because we have 4 focal lengths and 2 incoming cameras. We have 8 virtual cameras that we can switch between. Now we can also put a different virtual set on every input coming into the TriCaster, and this opens up a wide variety of effects that we can achieve. We can literally have 2 people sitting right next to each other on a green screen with one camera framing one person out, a separate camera framing another person out, and they can both appear to be in very large virtual sets. So over here on input 3, we still have Rex inside the demo studio. I'm in the demo studio over here. Well, I'm going to come down here and choose a different virtual set for me. We're going to go with the world update set for me and choose the focal length that we want. Now Rex could be on camera as the anchor, and he wants to go ahead and send it over to me, and we can send it over to me in a completely different virtual set, yet Rex and I could be sitting right next to each other. Depending upon the TriCaster that you have, you can do this either 3 times with our 3 input versions of the TriCaster, or up to 6 times with our 6 input versions of the TriCaster. So I could have 6 people sitting side by side, and each one in their own huge virtual set. Now, some of the virtual sets also have another variable available under your shot pull down, and this is called a double box effect. And a double box effect is going to allow us to bring a piece of video. Again, whatever is in the effects bus is going to be our large video displayed in our output, and it keeps the talent inside of the virtual set environment still combined in the shot. So I can now start to talk about the video that's playing. Of course, I can play that video, and again, that can be any input coming into the TriCaster. It could be a live input, it could be something playing back from my DDRs, it could be a PowerPoint even playing from an external computer if we wanted it to be. So the double box effects are very cool effect inside of the TriCaster. In real time, we can swap the positions of the windows. We can go full screen on the talent. We can go full screen on the video that's playing back, and then instantaneously right back into the double box effect, still incorporating that piece of video in the monitor playing below the desk inside of the virtual set. Other variables that are available in the live set virtual set packs are things like a close-up shot. Close-up shot is what you're going to see me on camera right now. And in the close-up shot, I have variables that would add a monitor to this shot. See, when I add a monitor, it actually moves me over and makes room for the monitor that's going to be in the shot. This is all done automatically by the set. You just use the camera aligner to line up for a close-up shot. The virtual sets do the rest of the work. This particular set, the close-up version, comes with over-the-shoulder monitors over both shoulders, and then a different look for the monitor over my right shoulder, and then just a close-up shot on the talent themselves. We also have some virtual sets that are set up for full standing green screen, and these are represented by full standing silhouettes in the thumbnails. You would have to have full standing green screen input into the TriCaster to take advantage of those, but this would allow me to have the talent, the entire body, standing inside of a virtual set. The DDR inside of the TriCaster is a powerful media playback device. It allows us to play back video clips, audio clips, and still files. Let's go ahead and take a look at how we use the DDR in the TriCaster. The DDR is found in the DDR tab in the TriCaster Broadcast and Studio. It's found in the DDR and Picture tab in the other versions of the TriCaster. And it, again, allows us to play back a variety of file formats. All of the clips that we're going to play back inside of the TriCaster's DDR are going to come from the internal drive in the TriCaster. Now, we can get these clips into the TriCaster either by capturing them through the analog inputs in the front using the capture panel in the TriCaster, which we'll cover a little bit later. We could also use the USB or FireWire ports to hook up external hard drives or thumb drives to get clips onto the hard drive. We also have a gigabit Ethernet connection in the back of the TriCaster, allowing us to connect the TriCaster to any network and bump clips across the network into the TriCaster's hard drive. Once the clips are on the hard drive, we're ready to load them into the DDR. We see our DDR right here and all of its controls to the right of it. If we have two DDRs, the controls to the right are the controls for that DDR. So we're going to work with DDR number 1 right now. And as we look through its controls, we can see that we have a selection and a list mode. Now, once we have some clips loaded up, selection is going to play just the clip that's currently selected, and list is going to play the entire list of clips as one project. We also have the ability to loop either the selection or the list. We have a counter which shows us the progression through the clip, and one thing about the counter is you can click on the numbers of the counter to toggle it between a count down and a count up. I prefer using count down as it shows me how much time I have left in that clip before I have to transition out to another element in my live production. Here we have our transport controls. We have stop, play, rewind, fast forward, and pause. We also have a cue mode, which we'll talk about in just a moment. We do have a jog shuttle down below, which allows us to shuttle through the clip. And we also have some variable speed playback controls. These are actually buttons that we can press while we're playing the clip back to play the clip back in slow motion, a little bit faster, again. Normal speed here, and you can see that the play button engages when we click on the normal speed button, and then faster than normal speed. Clicking on the yellow button in the middle puts us back into stop, and then we have all of the same controls going in reverse. Down at the bottom we have our file I/O. This is where we can add clips. If we want to add clips into the DDR, we click on the add button. It will bring up our requester. Inside of the requester, again, we can click on the clip shortcut to get us to our clip folder. And from within the clip folder, we can add clips. Now, we can hold down the control key, and the TriCaster will remember the order in which we click on clips. And when we go ahead and load them, they will load in that order. We also, if we hit the add button, can directly drag clips from the bin directly into the DDR. Once we get clips into the DDR, we can go ahead and put them in whatever order we want the clips to play back in, simply by left clicking on them and dragging them into the order that we want them to play back. Now, one thing to keep in mind when working with clips, especially large numbers of clips, is when we load a clip into the DDR, it does a little bit of processing on this clip. It wants to create the icon for the front and back and things of that nature. This takes a little bit of processing time. But if you're in the middle of a live production and you dump 50 clips into a DDR and they've not been recognized previously, it's going to have to go through the process of recognizing each one of these clips. And if you're doing other processes inside the TriCaster at that time, this can cause the interface to slow down a little bit, or even stutter, or momentarily lock up. It will come back and your output should not be interrupted, but you will have no control over the interface for a short period of time. A way around this is to make sure that any clips that you're going to use during your live presentation, load them into the DDR ahead of time before the presentation starts and let the TriCaster recognize them. It does write them into a cache file, and once they've been recognized one time, it doesn't have to recognize them again. They will instantly show up and be available for playback from that point forward. Now, we also have a remove button down here, and this is to remove clips. Again, if I select a clip and hit the remove button, it will take it out of the DDR. Of course, it's just removing it from the DDR, not from the hard drive. Now, we can also select a clip and just hit the delete key on the keyboard. We can also multiply select clips. We can either click on a clip and hold down Control for multiple selection, just like in Windows, or we can click on a clip and hold down Shift, and it will select all the clips in between the two clips that we select. And again, if I wanted to get rid of them, I could just hit the delete key on the keyboard or the remove key. Now, we also have a clone key. Clone key will allow us to clone a clip. So if I have a clip that's pretty long, I'm going to come down here and clone this clip. a couple of times, and I have the ability to set in and out points on clips. Notice that when the mouse is over the left side icon of the clip, it turns into an in cursor, and on the right side icon, it's an out cursor. So this means I can set an in point for the clip, and I can set an out point for the clip. So again, if I've got a clip that's reasonably long, I could come through and I could clone it a few times and then set different in and out points for each iteration of the clip, in essence doing some basic cuts-only editing right here within the DDR. Now, what kind of file formats can we play back as far as video in the DDR? The DDR will play back a wide variety of file formats, but we recommend using either DV Type 2 AVIs or using our own file format that comes with the TriCaster. The reason being, even though the DDR will play back clips of other file formats, different file formats use up different amounts of CPU overhead. So we want to make sure that no matter what you're doing in the TriCaster, you can do everything that the TriCaster does simultaneously. If we put, for instance, HD clips in there, which you could do, and it would play them and scale them, it's going to take a lot more CPU overhead to do that. So if I'm trying to do many other things, record the output, stream, archive the stream, do a switch with virtual sets and motion overlays, I may get to a point where the CPU can't handle it. If you use our file format that comes with the TriCaster, you're never going to have this issue. Our file format also supports alpha channel, so you can use it in just about every case that you would ever run into in a live production. Now, how can we convert your file format into our file format? We'll cover that just a little bit later when we get into the nonlinear editor. We have two more buttons on the interface. We have load and save playlist, and these allow us to do exactly that. We can set up a list of clips and we can save them as a playlist. We simply click Save Playlist. We navigate to where we want to go. And again, when we're navigating in the requester, in the TriCaster, you get the path along the top here, and any portion of this path is clickable. So if I click on TriCaster, it's going to take me to the root. Now I click on my D drive, I go into Media, I go into Clips, or in this case, I'll go into Playlists, and this is where I'm going to save all my playlists and load my playlists. So I can simply give this a name. This is Playlist A. And now, if I clean this out, I'm just going to left click and drag a box over all of the clips inside of the DDR and hit the delete key. If I want to get those videos back, I simply say Load Playlist. We load up Playlist A, and I instantly have all my clips back. Now, as I said before, we can also play back audio from in the DDR, and there is an interesting way of using audio clips along with other media in the DDR. I'm going to go ahead and clean out this playlist, and let's say I wanted to play back a few still files. I'm going to go ahead and find the still images, and we support a wide variety of file formats: Targa, PNG, JPEG, most of the normal file formats. And again, if I want to bring these pictures in a specific order, I can hold down Control and click on them in the order that I want to bring them in, and then go ahead and click Open. They show up in that order, ready to go. Now let's say that I want to play this as a slideshow, and I want to have a music bed underneath it. Well, the first thing that I can do is each of the pictures comes in at 5-second duration. I can change the duration simply by hovering over the end, either end of the clip, and adjusting the length. I'm going to leave them at 5 seconds. If I want to play music on top of this, I could, if I have a second DDR, play it from the second DDR. But even if I'm just working with one DDR, I'm going to go ahead and add a music clip. And let's go ahead and just bring this music clip down. And I'm going to drag it right into the DDR, and I'm going to make it the second clip in the DDR. I'm going to go ahead and click on the very first clip and tell the DDR that I want to play the list. When it starts playing this back, it's going to play the pictures and the music. Let's go ahead and bring up this DDR, and I'll hit the play button. So as you can see, we can drop a music clip right in underneath either the first video clip or the first still, and that audio file will play throughout the entire project while the rest of the media inside of the playlist plays back as well. Now again, loading and saving playlists is very valuable here because I could make a playlist of all my stills. We could also create a playlist of our video clips for, let's say, hour 1, hour 2, hour 3. So we can streamline the workflow. So we're not trying to wade through long lists of clips to find what we need. Everything is right there at our fingertips. Again, as long as we load all the clips in and let them process before we start our live production, playlists will load up practically instantaneously, allowing you to change out all of the media that you have access to inside of the DDR. If you are working with a TriCaster broadcast or a TriCaster studio, you have 2 DDRs, and I recommend that you prioritize your work a little bit. Use one as your still store and one as your video playback. Use one as your audio bed and one as your video playback. You can also use the DDRs as an overlay source to do motion overlays over top of your live video outputs. We'll talk about that when we get into overlays. But again, when I have 2 DDRs, I like to prioritize. So I'll put all of my overlays in DDR number 2, and I'll put all my video clips in DDR number 1. That way I never make a mistake playing the wrong type of clip at the wrong time. Now, we also have the Q mode inside of our DDR, and the Q mode is the most powerful feature of the DDR in my opinion. I'm going to go ahead and clean out some of these videos that we have in here right now. And again, I'm going to simply go to Load Playlist, and I'm going to load up Playlist A that we had a little bit earlier. And I've got several clips in here defined, even though some of them are defined out of the same clip. It doesn't matter. They all have different in and out points, and each clip has its duration right here. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the DDR, I'm going to select the first clip. We're going to put it in selection mode. We're going to make sure that loop is turned off. And we're going to put it in Q mode. Once it's in Q mode, it's an automatic DDR. And what I mean by that is I'm going to bring it up on preview. I'm going to choose a transition that I want to use to switch to it, and I'm going to hit the space bar. And as soon as I switch to it, it plays the clip. The clip pre-rolls and plays. Again, I'm in countdown mode. I see how much time I have. I'll say, let's come back to camera 1. Let's go ahead and use a different transition. Okay, we're back in 5, 4, 3. The TriCaster does the transition automatically when the clip is done playing back to whatever camera you have selected, and queues up the next clip in the DDR. As you see in the DDR now, the next clip is already queued and ready to go. The only thing I need to do to activate it is to switch back to the DDR. I simply hit the space bar. That clip starts playing. Again, let's go to camera 2 when we're done, and let's use a fade this time on the way out. I see my countdown. We're back in 5, 4, 3. And again, the TriCaster switches back to me on camera and queues up the next clip in my DDR. It's like having a virtual tape operator built right into the TriCaster, always pre-rolling the clip for you and queuing up the next clip after the last clip has been completed. Very often when we do portable live production, we also need to be able to bring in an external computer as a source into our switch. It could be a PC or a Mac. Someone may want to play back a PowerPoint presentation or even do some sort of software training. Traditionally, this means we have to get a scan converter and convert that computer signal into a video signal. The video signal would then take up one of the inputs coming into my switcher. With the TriCaster, any computer that's connected to the same network as the TriCaster can show up as an input in the TriCaster. When you opened your TriCaster, there was a small box inside of the TriCaster box which contained some adapters and a disk. On that disk, you'll find a piece of software called IVGA. IVGA is the client software that we want to load onto the external computers that are going to show up as an input in the TriCaster. We simply copy IVGA to that computer and we run the IVGA software. You'll know that IVGA is running because you'll see a small color bar television monitor show up in the icon tray in the lower right-hand corner of the PC. Once we have the computer connected to the network and we have IVGA running on that external computer, we go to our external tab. Inside the external tab, we have a small production router. This allows us to actually connect to 3 computers simultaneously and instantly switch between those 3 computers. Let's go ahead and connect to my external laptop. We're going to pop the list open, and I can see all of the computers on my network that are running IVGA. I'm going to go ahead and select my laptop. My laptop instantly shows up in my external preview monitor and is now available. If I bring up external on preview and execute a switch, we're now seeing the PowerPoint being displayed from my laptop. I can now run the laptop and it is brought into my video presentation like any other input. Now remember, now that we have our external computer source coming in as an input, we treat it like any other input in the TriCaster. If you're working with a TriCaster that has live set technology, we can now use that on the effects row, and we can key any of our green screen talent over the top of that PowerPoint. Or if we have our talent inside of a virtual set, we can put the external input on the effects row, and that will put the PowerPoint or our external computer display on the on-screen monitor inside of the virtual set. You can see that some of the controls inside the external tab are ghosted out. And these are the controls for IVGA overlay and our output to VGA. These controls are ghosted when a second monitor or a projector is not hooked up to the second VGA output from the video card. Let's go ahead and hook up an output to that second VGA out from our video card. Now that we have our second VGA output connected, this is the program out VGA version, we can see that our controls have come to life. We now have the ability to do what's called an IVGA overlay. So if we bring in the external computer just as a source and we switch to it, this is being scan converted. Now, if you are using a projector to do a presentation to a large live audience, then we can do something called an IVGA overlay to sharpen the image on the projector only. Now we can come down here under IVGA overlay and we can either do a take to cut it onto the screen, or we can fade it up and down on the screen. And what you'll notice when we engage IVGA overlay is we get a rock solid version of the output of the computer on our secondary VGA output. So again, the people in the room that are looking at the projector would see a pristine version of the PowerPoint presentation. The video output and the stream are unaffected. So you could continue to roll a video production, switching between cameras and inputs and rolling the PowerPoint presentation in for the people watching on the stream or the people that get maybe a DVD of the recorded output later. But the people in the room see an absolute pristine version of that IVGA source on their projector. Now again, this can be faded up and down over top of what's coming out on the projector at like any other input. So you could be doing a switch and then just go ahead and hit the fade button and it's going to fade that up right over the top. It's going to look like any other transition in the TriCaster, and then you can fade it back down. Again, this is for the projector output only. We also have our output to VGA controls. We have the ability of setting the output resolution of that second VGA output from our video card. So what we can use this for is, if we can determine what the native resolution of our projector that we're hooking up is, we can set the TriCaster's output to match that native resolution. Then we can go into the menu of the projector and we can turn the scaler off in the projector. This will reduce the latency that we get when using a TriCaster for doing something like image magnification. The latency out of a TriCaster is 2 to 4 frames. But this latency can be reduced by gen-locking your cameras and using SDI cameras and SDI projectors. Also have the ability to key a presentation. This means I could create, say, a green square in a PowerPoint presentation and then frame a camera up so that when I key that green square out, I have the head of the person giving the PowerPoint presentation inside of the PowerPoint presentation. We also have the ability to do a little bit of positioning and cropping on this, and we can adjust brightness, contrast, and do a little bit of video enhancement, again, for the VGA output only. We do ship an adapter in the box that comes inside of the TriCaster box to adapt the DVI output on the back of the TriCaster to a standard 15-pin VGA computer cable. Now, when working with IVGA on the external computer, we also have a few options with IVGA itself. IVGA shows up in the icon bin down in the right-hand corner, and it is this little color bar television. I can tell it's active because the color bars are moving across it. If it was just running but not connected to a TriCaster, those bars would not be moving. Now, if you right-click on IVGA itself, you get some options. And we have some setup options which allow us to determine which monitor on our external computer. If the computer that we are bringing in as an external source has two displays, we can choose which display we want to see. We can choose to see the mouse cursor or not see the mouse cursor. And we can also choose our network speed, and this is critical. If we're using a gigabit Ethernet connection, we definitely want to make sure that we set this up for gigabit Ethernet to give us the best possible response. This comes into play if we're going to be using videos inside of our PowerPoint, or even PowerPoints with fancy animated builds. You're going to want to have a gigabit Ethernet connection to get nice, smooth video playback. And this is the way that we do that. We want to select gigabit Ethernet on the computer itself through the IVGA interface. Again, we have versions of IVGA for both Mac or PC, so once you get it loaded onto the machine, you can access those options. Another thing to remember is you don't actually have to load IVGA onto the external computer. You could actually run it from a thumb drive. So just copy IVGA to a thumb drive, put the thumb drive in a USB port, and run IVGA from the thumb drive. It will work. Then you can stop IVGA when you're done and remove the thumb drive, and you haven't had to install anything onto anyone's computer in order to use IVGA. Let's talk about using graphics or titles inside of the TriCaster. The TriCaster has several ways of creating titles. Let's take a look at a few of them. Our overlay section in the interface is right over here, and the overlay section allows us to choose 4 different sources to use as overlays over our video. We can use our text tab, we can use either of our DDRs, or we can use an external source such as NewTek's live text software, which can be run externally. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Let's start out with the text tab. We'll come down here and we'll click on the text tab in the interface. And the text tab is a template-based CG. So I can use this pop-up list right here, and we'll go ahead and open this list. Now we can mouse over the pre-made title templates inside of this list, and we get a small thumbnail preview of what each one of these titles is going to look like. We have a large variety of them. I'm using the scroller wheel on my mouse here to move down through the list. And they're segmented into categories: holiday, film, event, education, commercial, full-page billboards, things along those lines. And then, of course, lower thirds as we get down here into the list, and a variety of other types of titles and CGs. I'm going to go ahead and load up a lower third. And as soon as I click on one of the templates, it shows up in my template list right down here. Now, I'm going to go ahead and load up a few different types just so that we have some variety to work with. And I'm going to come over here, and we have some vignette style graphics, some graphics where video can show through, takes up a little bit more of the screen. We have some sidebar type vignettes. We also have, of course, full page graphics as well. Now, once I get my graphics or my templates loaded into the template list here that I want to use, I can begin to modify them. I click on the template, and it shows up in my text preview window over here. Anything that I mouse over in this window that highlights is editable. So I simply mouse over the text, and I left click. Now I type, and I hit enter to go ahead and make that change. Again, I can click on the subheading. And in this particular lower third, the graphic also highlights when I mouse over it. And this means that I can change the graphic as well. Simply click on the graphic, and I can load any graphic to replace it. You do need to know that it is going to stretch or squash your graphic into the aspect ratio of the original graphic. So if you want to maintain the look without stretching or squashing your video or your image that you're adding to this template, you want to crop it ahead of time to match the aspect ratio of what you're replacing. I'll go ahead and select an image, and this text is now ready to go. Now, we can get through all of the templates that we currently have loaded in our list down here by using these arrow keys. I can also double-click on any of the title templates in my list here, and they will become the main active title. You know that it's the active title when it shows up in the overlay preview window right here. So once I get my title in place, and this is the one that I want to use, I'm ready to go ahead and either fade it up or take it up. Now don't confuse this take button with this take button. The take and the auto button over here are for executing transitions between video sources, and the fade and the take button over here are for fading or cutting our overlays on and off over the top of our video. Go ahead and click the fade button and we'll fade up our overlay. Now, one very important thing to notice is I did not have to leave the live production environment in order to create this graphic. I was able to, while I was live on camera, change the text, set it up, and execute it as an overlay without having to stop the live production. This is very important. This means I can make titles on the fly, and these are live editable title templates. So if someone showed up at your production and you didn't have a title made for them and they were walking to the stage, you can literally have a title made for them by the time they get to the stage. Now, as I said, there are a wide variety of styles here. We have vignette style graphics, and we have full page graphics, and a wide variety. But we're never going to be able to give everybody exactly what they want in a selection of templates. Maybe we work for a television station and we're mandated to use a specific graphics package. We can import imagery into the templates. If we pop our list open and we go all the way to the top of the list, we have a selection called Add Image. And this selection will allow me to add any image. And if that image has an alpha channel or a transparency, say it's a ping or say it's a Targa 32, then the TriCaster can take advantage of that alpha channel and it can be used as an overlay. The only caveat here is it will not be a title template. It's not a live editable title template. It's simply an image that we've imported from another package. Now you can take your graphics and create your own title templates or create title templates from scratch by using our Edit Text tab. The Edit Text tab launches a full-blown CG. Now, you do have to do this either in pre or post because this does exit out of our live production environment. When we're working in the TriCaster, we have our 4 main tabs up here, and live production is the tab we're in now. If I exit out to Edit Media or Edit Text, you'll see that my interface output will go blank and will then represent what we're working on in either of those applications. Let's go into Edit Text. Edit Text brings us to a full-blown character generator built into the TriCaster. This will allow us to import graphics from other packages and create our title templates. We can also create title templates from scratch. We can also create motion titles. We can do scrolls and crawls inside of our Edit Text tab. And the Edit Text tab also comes with a wide variety of pre-made templates. So we can simply pop open the list of pre-made templates. Again, we'll get a little thumbnail of each one as we mouse over it. And these are great to use as a jumping off point to create your own graphics. Now, I'm going to go ahead and select a template to modify. And we're going to go ahead and select a lower third style template. So let's come down here to our lower thirds. And again, I can simply click on a lower third and it shows up. And from within the title template, I have the ability to not only change the text like I can in the live editable title templates, but now I can modify size, I can modify font, shape, color, a lot of things that I can't do in the live production environment. So I can simply select my selection tool and select any element of this graphic, and I now have complete control over the element for changing size, for changing style, and anything else I might want to do. Again, we have a tab-based interface down here at the bottom, and this allows us to go through our viewing options, our text and drawing tools and options, our color selection for creating either solid colors or gradients. We have a variety of predetermined font styles, and again, if I select an element of text, I can now just click on any of these predetermined font styles to change the look of that text to match my predetermined text. We also have a file bin, and from this file bin I can access any drive attached to the computer, or I can also again hook up external drives such as a USB or a FireWire drive or a thumb drive and access those. And I can import graphics from any other package to use inside of the CG. Now the CG, as far as importing graphics, is only going to import still graphics, and we can't use video clips inside of the CG. The only motion that we have inside of our CG is for scrolls or crawls. Now we also have a full layering system here, so as we create graphics we can create and move the layers to the foreground and the background and create some very detailed graphics. We also have the ability to group and ungroup these graphics. So once we create a scenario and we're happy with it, I could go ahead and select all of the graphics, I can group them, and now I can move this entire thing as a group. And at any point, if I want to make changes to it, I can simply ungroup them, and I have all of the individual pieces available for editing once again. Let's go ahead and we're going to use this graphic as it sits right now. And let's go ahead and take this graphic, we'll group it again and move it back down here. And we're also going to make a scroll. I'm going to come up here to this blank page, and to make a scroll I'm going to use my text tool and come down here. Now it looks like the text is real big right now, so again I can go to text and drawing, and I've got my font width and height, but I have them locked using the locked aspect ratio button. So I can go ahead and I can size that down, and I get a preview over here of what the text is going to look like. And I want to have an edge on the text, so I'm going to turn my edge on. You have several types of edges: bevel, squares, or round. I'm just going to go with a round edge. We also have shadow. I'm also going to turn shadow on. We can do three types of shadows: a cast, a drop, or a soft. I'm going to do a cast shadow, and the little color swatch next to it is the color of the shadow. And right now the default color is almost completely transparent. So I'm going to click on that color swatch, and now I can determine the color of the shadow. I'm simply going to take the alpha channel, the A control here is my alpha channel, and I'm going to turn it all the way up. And then I'm going to click on this color swatch, and let's go ahead and bring this down and then drag my little control area down here because I want to have a black drop shadow. Now 255 is completely opaque. Let's go down to about maybe 190. Give it a little bit of transparency, but it's still going to show up nicely in our graphic. I'm now ready to start typing my crawl along the bottom of the screen. Again, when you work with a CG, we have two boundaries here. The inner boundary is our safe area for our text, and the outer boundary is our safe area for our video. So whenever we're creating titles, we want to make sure that we're inside of our title safe area. Now I'm ready to type out my text. This is a crawl created with the NewTek TriCaster using the edit text application. Now, right below down here, I can select the motion type, no motion, or which way it's going to be traveling. I want this to travel from right to left. Now, I can come over to my playback controls and hit play, and it will give me a preview of what this is going to look like, and I can see right off the bat that it's very, very slow. So I'm going to go ahead and stop that. And right here, I have a slider for motion speed. So I'm going to bring that up to about 3.5 and then try to play it back again. And that's a little bit more what I was looking for. Again, I can go back and tweak it and get exactly the speed that I'm looking for. Once I'm happy with the speed, I can choose an end behavior. And the end behavior is it going to loop over and over again? Is it going to stop after it passes by the screen one time? or is it going to go back to its default position and start over again, but not start, just be in the start position? Or is it going to loop the last frame? I'm going to go ahead and set it for over, so it just crawls across the screen and ends, and that's now ready. Now again, I can come up here to my selection tool, select the text, and pick a style for it. Come back to my text and drawing, make sure that I still have my shadow turned on. You'll notice that my outline is turned to a red outline. And outlines have two colors as well. It has an inner color and an outer color. So I'm just going to go ahead with the defaults from the preset and let it go with the look that we have right there. That looks pretty good. So now I have two pages in my current CG project. I have the crawl up here at the top. I have my lower third graphic here. Let's say I want to do a scroll. If I just click down here in an unused area, it creates a new page for me. And now I want to do a scroll, so again, I take my text tool and I can type out my credit roll. So producer is Carlo, talent is Don, and so forth. Now I'm going to go to my selection tool and left click and drag over all of these, and using my alignment tools I can now center them all up exactly where I want them to be. And again, I want this to come from the bottom to the top, so I'm going to choose my direction, I'm going to choose my speed, and I'm going to test it out and see what it looks like. And that looks pretty good for what I was looking for. Again, if I want to change the style, I can simply go to Style and pick a different style for it if we want to. I'm going to use the same style we used over on our crawl. Now I can make as many pages in here as I want, and once I get all my pages set up, I can of course save the project so that the project can be reloaded later for modification. I can of course load a project that has been saved, and I can save the project as a different project with Save As, and of course start a completely new project. Now the next two buttons are very important. We have the ability to export a page out to the live production environment or export the project out to the live production environment. And if I'm going to export a page, it's whatever page is currently selected. It's going to be the one that's exported. Now I want to go ahead and export the entire project. So I'm going to say export project for live, and it's going to say there's a project that already exists. Do you want to replace it? Which means we would get rid of what's currently out there that was exported from the edit text application. Or we can leave what's out there and append that with the new pages coming from this project. So I'm going to go ahead and append. And the scrolls and crawls need to be rendered. So these will actually be rendered out as pieces of video, and then whatever still graphics we have in here are going to be instantly exported as live editable title templates. Let's go back into our live production environment. When I'm going to exit, it asks me if I want to save the project that I'm working on. And again, if you haven't saved it using the Save button up here, you can click Save here, and then this project will reload the next time you enter the Edit Text tab. We're going to go all the way up to the top, and we have our text page, and we can see the CGs that we created here. And I simply click on one, it shows up in my list. It's now an editable title template. Now there's another thing that it does when we export out to live. I'm going to go ahead and remove this. And here's another bug that I made in the CG. So again, bring this up using the text tab as my input, and we can fade that up and we can see that we've got a little graphic up there over my head. Now one thing that I can do is I can use this as a live set. When we export from Edit Text, it also exports live sets. So we're going to go to the Input Setup tab, and we're going to go ahead to the Scene pop-up and choose Edit Text Desktop. We're then going to choose that same graphic, and now with live set turned on, it pops in over my head. Now the interesting thing about it is now completely independent of any other graphic that I have in the system that I can use over here as my overlay. So we can now fade this up independently from the other graphic. This means I could use this as a way of creating a bug that would stay down in the lower corner or wherever I positioned it as a live set, this means we can use what we generated as our live set as a permanent bug. It's always going to be on that input all the time. It means I can't use a virtual set, but again, just trying to show you the flexibility and usability of the system in all of its different possible configurations. So we could use that live set as our bug, and we can still use our text overlay or our overlay area to independently fade graphics up and down, not affecting that permanent bug because it's on there as a live set. Now we can use other sources besides the live editable title templates inside of our overlay area. We can also use either one of our DDRs or an external source. We'll talk about that in just a moment. Let's look at the DDRs. The DDRs allow us to use motion overlays. So if you happen to use other products and you want to create motion overlays in other applications, not a problem. You will be able to import them and use them inside of the DDR as a motion graphic with transparency and use them in the overlay area. I'm going to go to DDR number 2 and I'm going to add a clip that's got some alpha channel in it. I'm going to go ahead and set it up as the clip that I want to use. Let's bring up DDR number 2 as our source. Now I'm going to go ahead and make sure that I have selection turned on. I have the clip selected. I have loop turned on so it just loops. It doesn't stop after it's done playing. And I can even use Q mode here. We're going to turn Q mode on. And because I have DDR number 2 selected up here in the overlay, when I hit the take button, Q mode is going to activate and play that DDR. So either take or fade. We'll just go ahead and hit fade. Now, because we had Q turned on in the DDR, it automatically rolled the tape for us, or rolled the DDR for us, started our graphic playing, gives us a full motion graphic overlaid over the top of our video. Again, this can be any full motion graphic. It could be created inside of the TriCaster, either in the editor inside of the TriCaster, or again, the scrolls and crawls that we created earlier can also be used this way. Go down to the DDR and click on Add, and when I saved out the project from Edit Text, it went into my CG folder. I've got a shortcut to CGs right here. If I click on it, they show up, and here are the CGs that we saved out. So here's my scroll, here's my crawl. I'm going to select both of those, click on Open to bring them in. I now have them in here as well, and again, I click on it, I'm in Select and Loop. We have Q turned on, DDR is selected as my source. I simply hit fade, and we now have our scroll and our crawl available to us as well. We can also use the external input. Again, we've got the external input. This is how we brought in our computer, if you remember, over here. And the external input is used when we're using an external software application called Live Text. Live Text is basically the Edit Text tab broken out into a standalone piece of software which runs on an external computer. Again, once connected to the same network as the TriCaster, the output of Live Text can be brought in as an overlay source used in the overlay section of the TriCaster, and this can be done during a live presentation. So you could have someone running the titles and the CG externally outside of the TriCaster, and again the TriCaster operator has the ability to bring those graphics in like any other input into the TriCaster. We're going to do a separate video on Live Text, so for more information on that product, please make sure you watch that video. Now let's talk about recording and streaming the final output of the TriCaster. Let's go to the Record and Stream tab, and we've got two sections. We have our Stream to Internet section and our Record to Disk section. Now, recording to disk allows us to record the final output of the TriCaster, and we have two options here. We can either record the live output, which is going to record everything, including overlays, virtual sets, the whole 9 yards, or we can say that we want to record the effects row on the switcher. And if we do that, it's only going to record whatever input is selected on the effects row. This would be a way to record just one isolated camera if you're not using the effects row to switch to anything else. If you are recording the effects row and you do start switching on the effects row, it will record that switch. Of course, again, recording live output is what we'll be doing the majority of the time. Now, We have the ability to give our live output a file name, and then the location, we click on the button here with the 3 dots on it, which will bring up a requester, and we can now navigate to where we want to record our final output. We also have a little gas gauge down here which shows us how much room we have available, and to record the final output we simply click on Record Live Output. When we click on this button, you'll see the indicator light start traveling back and forth left to right, and an indication of how long the recording has been going. To the right of that, we have our Stream to Internet section. This allows us to select the stream type from this pop-up. We stream in both Windows Media and Flash, and as we open this pop-up, we see that we have a variety of both pull and push type stream for Windows Media, and then for Flash, we have pushing only. We have a variety of window sizes and bit rates to stream with. And as we scroll down to the bottom, you can see that when we're streaming with Flash, we have the very popular H.264 format, and we have even added some profiles for streaming directly to Ustream.com, which is a free live streaming site allowing you to stream your TriCaster content to the internet for free. When we're pulling a stream, we select our profile, and the viewer is going to have to be able to see our TriCaster across the network line of sight. What this means is there can be no firewalls in between. This can be used if I'm just trying to stream to 1 or 2 people inside my own company, or if my streaming server is set up to pull from the source. We can also push, and when we push, we're going to be pushing from the TriCaster to a URL. This is much more desirable as I don't have to worry about firewalls or anything like that. I'm pushing to a URL given to me by the person that's administrating the streaming server or the content delivery network that I happen to be working with. People very often ask me, how do I stream out to the masses? I don't have my own streaming setup at home or in my business. Well, you can find yourself a content delivery network, do an internet search for a content delivery network or CDN, you'll find a wide variety of them, or go to a site like Ustream.com, that's the letter U and the word stream, all one word, .com, and sign up for an account, and then you'll have a URL at Ustream that you can push your stream to. Now when we're going to push a stream out, we also get the ability to username and password protect that stream. Start the stream, we simply click on Stream Live Output. Now, we also have the ability to archive that stream, and if we click the Write to Disk button, and we use the button over here, and we select an area that we want to archive our stream to, while we're streaming, we will also be recording that stream either as a WMV file or an FLV file, depending upon whether you're streaming in Windows Media or Flash. At the end of the live production, you'll have that file instantly available to upload to a website so people can now watch that stream on demand. Another tab available to us inside of the TriCaster is the Capture tab. This is how we can manually capture footage into the TriCaster either through the analog inputs or using FireWire. Let's take a look. We're going to go into the Capture Media tab. Now, from within Capture Media, we can capture from the DV input, so you can hook up a DV device, a camcorder, or a DV deck via FireWire. These DV camera controls will become active and allow us to control that external device, play, pause, fast forward, rewind, jog shuttle, all that sort of stuff. We can choose to come in through the YC input, the composite input, the component input, or, depending upon your TriCaster, the SDI input. Now, we're always using input number 1. No matter what input we're coming in on, of course DV is through the FireWire port, but everything else is coming in through input number 1. We have the ability to select whether we're capturing only audio, only video, or both. If we're doing audio only, we can choose which audio input we're coming in through. Microphone, which is the audio input number 1, or again, depending upon the version of the TriCaster you have, you could be coming in SDI. Now, we also can name the clips as they come in, and we have a little gauge showing us how much hard drive space we have left. Down in the bottom portion of the section, this is where the clips are going to be captured to. So simply navigate to wherever you want the clips to end up, and this is where you're going to be capturing the clips to. Once we're all set, we're ready to capture, stop, and a pause button. We also have the ability to grab a still image from video playing back into the input that we're capturing from by clicking on the picture button. Once we've captured our media and it's inside of the TriCaster, we're ready to either use it in our live production environment or use it in the Edit Media tab. With SDI 1 selected, I simply hit the capture button and I'm now capturing the video into the TriCaster. Again, at any point in time, if I wanted to grab a still image, I can hit the picture button and I instantaneously get a JPEG still image pulled from the video into wherever I've navigated and told the TriCaster to save my captures. Once I'm done capturing, I simply hit the stop button and that clip shows up in my bin as well. Once we click on the Edit Media tab, we launch the Edit Media interface. This is the nonlinear editor that comes along with the TriCaster. It's a very powerful nonlinear editor that can be used for more than just editing your video. We can also use it for file format conversion or scaling your video. Let's take a look. The thing that's different about our editor than most other editors is that we have both a timeline and a storyboard. So I'm just going to start out by looking at my hard drive. And we're going to go into Media, and we're going to go find our clips wherever we have them stored on the drive. Now, one of the interesting things about this editor is that even though I haven't imported anything into the editor, we're just browsing the hard drive, I can still mouse over the clips and they will play back for me. If I'm mousing over a clip and it's playing back, if I hold down the Shift key, it will play in fast forward. If I hold down the Alt key, it will play in reverse. And if I hold down Shift and Alt, it will play quickly in reverse. So it's a real easy way of determining what your clips are and bringing them in the order that you want to bring them into the edit. But again, we can use this more than just for editing our video. For instance, let's say someone shows up at your live production with some video clips that they want to include in the production. You don't know what resolution they are or what file format they are. This editor will allow you to bring in just about any file format and just about any resolution, HD or SD. So you can simply bring the clip right into the editor will recognize it, and at this point you can just say you want to render it. And when rendering from the Edit Media tab in TriCaster, you have a variety of render options on the way out, including iPod MPEG-4, QuickTime for Apple Mac, MPEG for DVD authoring, AVI for Microsoft. Of course, we have our own proprietary format, and this is the TriCaster format, and we do it with and without alpha channels. So again, we can create motion graphics here with transparency and save them out with that alpha channel and then use them in the DDR back in our live production environment as a graphic overlay. So not only is this a great editor, it's also a great graphics compositing tool for quickly creating motion graphics. We can also save out as Flash and Windows Media to go direct to web with our output from the editor. But again, if I'm going to be using this clip in the DDR inside of my TriCaster, I want to save it out as either TriCaster AVI or TriCaster Overlay with Alpha Channel. And those are our file formats, which will allow you to use those in the DDR and do everything else that the TriCaster does simultaneously without having any kind of performance hit. Now, another way that we can use this editor is to scale our video. And very often, we may be working in 16:9 or 4:3, and someone brings us video clips, and of course they are whatever we're not working in. Murphy's Law, that's always the way it works. Well, you can very easily take a clip into the editor and come up here to the Control tab. And under Control, it brings up our positioner. So with the positioner now, I can, as I move the mouse around, you'll see that the little words underneath the cursor change. So I'm changing my modes here from the rotate mode into the crop mode, into the smoothing mode, into the sizing mode, and as I move around I get all of the different things that I can do to this piece of video. Well, if I've got a 4x3 piece of video and I want to use it in my 16:9 presentation, I'm going to use the sizing tool here, and I'm just going to go ahead and blow this up so that it fills the screen horizontally. And then, because I've sized it, not stretched it, I have room up top here. I can go ahead and I can move this down, get a little bit more headroom in there for what I'm looking at. And now I've effectively sized this clip from 4x3 up to 16:9. Again, at this point, I'm ready to come down here and render this out as my new clip to use as a 16:9 clip in my DDR, in my live production in the TriCaster. Now, let's go ahead and we'll select this clip and hit the delete key, and that will remove it from our timeline. We'll go back to our media bin. And let's talk about actually editing our video. Now, the editor that comes with the TriCaster is one of the fastest editors you'll ever use, and it's great when you're working in that live production time crunch environment. For instance, let's say I wanted to edit these videos together quickly and easily. Well, just like in the requester when you're loading up a DDR, you can hold down the control key and you can click on the clips in the order that you want to bring them into the edit. It will remember the order that you click on the clips, and when we bring them into our storyboard, they're already in that order, ready to go. Now, we do have a timeline, and I can get to it by clicking on the timeline tab right over here, and it shows me the timeline. When we're in the timeline mode, to navigate this interface, you want to bring the cursor up into the timeline area, this gray timeline where you can actually see the numbers, and the cursor turns from the actual pointer into a line with arrows going left and right. At this point, you can right-click and hold the mouse button, and dragging the mouse forward and back will zoom you, and dragging the mouse left and right will allow you to pan. So it's very easy, and it's also mouse sensitive. So if I wanted to zoom in to the end portion, I would put the cursor right over the end portion, right click, and when I zoom in, I'm zooming in right on that end portion. Again, if I want to zoom in the beginning, put the cursor over the beginning. Now I'm zooming in on the beginning portion. So that's how we can navigate our timeline. You can also, with nothing selected in the timeline, if you double click in this unused gray area, it will automatically auto-fit the entire project so that you can see the entire thing. Let's go back over to the storyboard. This is the way that I like to work, especially when I'm trying to do quick and dirty edits to get them done and get them into my live production. Storyboard is very visual and very conceptual. I can see the project right in front of me, and if I want to make changes, I literally just grab a video clip and drag it to wherever I want it to be in the edit. I can left-click and drag out a box and multiply select clips. Again, left-click on the selected clips, and I can move them as a group in the edit. Now, what about setting in and out points? We can go to the right or the left side of the clip and hold down the Alt key, and you'll see that the cursor turns into an in point. Now, left-clicking and dragging allows me to set the in point right on the storyboard. Again, if I come over to the right side and hold down the Alt key, I can now set an out point. You'll notice the two lines in the icon right here, and the purple line represents my video in and out points, and the green line represents my audio in and out points. You can also do things like split edits. We can hold down Alt and Control at the same time, and now we can adjust the audio separate from the video. So we could have the audio continue past the video, or we can have the audio stop before the video stops. And we can, of course, do that on the front end just as easily. Once we do have in and out points set on a clip, we may want to change the portion of the clip that's playing back, but not the duration of the clip. Here we hold down Alt and Shift, and we can now do slip and slide, and we can move the in and the out point at the same time. Again, we're just changing the portion of the clip, not the duration of the clip at that point. So we can go through and set all of our in and out points this way. We can also come here traditionally in the timeline and set in and out points the way that we would normally set our in and out points. You can grab the end of a clip and you can adjust it normally the way that you would adjust a clip in any timeline. And we can of course adjust the in point just as easily. I can also select the clip and right click on it and disable the audio or the video if I just want to use one or the other. Now that I've got my clips in the order that I want them to play, I want to put some transitions in between the clips. The easiest way of doing this is hitting Alt-F. Alt-F on the keyboard is going to put a fade in between every clip that's currently selected. And if no clips are currently selected, it's going to treat everything as being selected. So Alt-F will put a fade in between every clip for me instantaneously. Again, if I go back to my timeline, we can now see that we have transitions in between all of our clips. At this point, I'm ready to add an audio track. Adding an audio track is as easy as dragging it onto the timeline. I'm going to come out and find my audio clips, find the track that I want to use, and drag it down. There are no audio or video tracks in this editor, so we can put as many audio and as many video layers in here as we want. There is no limit whatsoever. Using standard definition clips, we're probably going to get 4 to 5 layers before we ever render anything. And any renders that occur inside the editor are background renders. So they do not stop you from continuing to work. They render in the background. Most of the time, you don't even know it's happening. I now have my audio clip in my project. I'm going to go to the end of the project now. And if I want to go ahead and stop the audio clip right there, 2 keyboard shortcuts that I use very often are I and O for in point and out point. So first I want to find the in point because there's some stuff happening with the music here in the beginning. And I want to start, I'm going to zoom in, I want to start right about here. So with the audio clip selected, I hit I for in point. It now sets that as my in point. Now I go to the end of my project, and again the audio clip still selected. I hit O for out point, and I've now set my in and my out point on my audio. We can also set in and out points on video clips this same way. Select the video clip, scrub to the portion where you want the in point to be, and hit the I key for in point. Now, since I had a transition set up on the end here, it had to move the clip in. I made it shorter. I'm going to select this transition. Let's zoom in on this area. And another interesting thing about this editor is if I take 2 clips and I simply push them together, it will automatically create a crossfade between those 2 clips for me. Now, all of the audio associated with these video clips I don't need. So I'm going to select all of the audio and hit the delete key. And I've just removed the audio. Now I want to move this track up. With one track, of course, I could just slide it up, but another interesting trick is we can right-click and say we want to collapse the empty tracks. And this is going to collapse everything down as best it can. Again, because I shortened that clip, my audio is now going beyond the video, so I can just get to the end of the project, select the audio, and hit the O key to reset the out point. Now I may want to fade the audio up. So again, I'm going to zoom in, and I also have on my timeline, I have a little magnifying glass down here that I can left click on, and I can zoom vertically. So we can zoom in and see what we're dealing with here. Now, as I move around even a clip, you'll see that my cursor says in point where I can set the in point. But as I come down here, it turns into FD. And this stands for fade. So this will allow me to manually put a fade up right in that clip. And again, if I play that from the beginning, space bar is your keyboard shortcut for playing and pausing. We can see that we have a nice fade up going on now, which is what I wanted. Now if I want the music to fade up, I can do the same thing. Come down here until it says FD on the bottom, left click, and drag in an audio fade. And you can see the audio fade right on the waveform as you drag it in. OK, I'm going to click in the gray area to make sure that nothing is selected. And now I'm going to double click in the gray area. and that'll auto-fit my project. Let's go to the end of the project and do the same thing. We're going to come out here to the end. I zoom in with my right mouse button, pushing away. I'm going to grab the fader handle and put a fade out, grab the music fader handle, and equal that fade out. So now we have a nice fade out at the end. Now I've got a basic project put together. I've got ins and out points set. I've got transitions in. I've got a nice music bed underneath it. Now maybe I want to add a title. We simply come up. Again, we want to be in our Media Bin tab, and we want to click on Titles. Here we have access to our templates, and the TriCaster comes with a wide variety of templates, just like in our Text tab and our Edit Text tab. We have templates that we can use. We can scroll through and see a wide variety of these. If I want to use one of these, I can simply grab it and drag it right down onto the timeline. I'm going to scrub the time bar over it, and you can see that we now have our CG in here. Now with the CG selected in the timeline, I'm going to come up to Controls. And I now have my CG controls right here. So I could very easily come in. Again, I have my text tool selected. I'm going to come over here to the name. I'm going to click in front of the name. I can now delete that name out and type in whatever name I want. And I'll go to my selection tool, and we've got this text box down here. Again, I can reposition that, change the text, or maybe I just want to hit the delete key and completely get rid of it. So I can customize these very quickly and easily to my own look and feel. And again, we're going to zoom out just a little bit here, and we're going to zoom in on this title that we created, and it also has fade handles. So we can do a fade up and a fade down. And again, if we play this, now maybe it's a little bit long and I want that title to be shorter. I simply grab the edge of the title and I shrink it down. Let's play it again. So now you can see how we can very quickly and easily put in clips, create in and out points. We can put our transitions in. We can add audio. We can also add titles. We can also animate titles inside of the TriCaster. I'm going to delete the title that we just had made. I'm going to go back to my media bin, and instead of using one of the templates, I'm just going to use a title page. Let's just drag a title page down, and I'm going to zoom in on this a little bit so we can see what we're working with, and I'm going to shrink it up a little bit. I'm going to drag my time bar so that it's over the top of it, so as I start manipulating it, I'll see it right on my screen. And again, with the CG selected, I'm going to go to the Controls tab. Let's go to Title, and let's go ahead and type in a title. I'm going to type in NewTek. Now I'm going to select the Selection tool, and again, I have styles in here, just like in live text. I can choose whatever style I want. It's got little handles on it in the selection mode that I can grab and size, and move, put the text wherever I want it to go. Again, if I come back over here to Title, I have my alignment tools here, so I can say center up horizontally and vertically, put it right in the middle of the screen. And now I want to animate it. So to do that, I'm going to go to the Positioning tab inside the title area. So I go to Positioning. Now I can animate this text. So again, as I move the cursor around, I get all my different options: move, crop, smooth, rotate, all these different things. Well, what I'm going to do with this clip is, with the clip selected, I'm going to hit Q. Q will automatically take you to the very first frame of any selected clip. Now, in the Positioner window, I'm going to move the mouse out here until this says Rotate. I'm going to right-click, and I'm going to rotate this to where it's on its side. Now I'm going to hit W. W takes me to the last frame of the selected clip. And Now I'm going to go ahead and spin this around one rotation to where it's flattened out on its other side. And if we play this, we'll see that we now have a rotating NewTek. We would have had a rotating NewTek if I would have keyframed any of that. All right, I need to, hold on. I'm going to start with now I want to animate the text. And I was here. Now I want to animate the text, so I'm going to go to the Positioning tab inside of the titler. I can now animate this text over time. I'm going to hit the Q key with the CG selected, and Q takes me to the first frame of a selected clip, and W takes me to the last frame of a selected clip. So again, Q to go to the front of a clip that's selected, W to go to the back. So I hit Q, it takes me to the first frame, and I'm going to click on Keyframe. I'm then going to move out until my cursor says rotate. Now, if I rotate with the left mouse button, it rotates on this axis. I'm going to reset that. If I rotate with the Y, I rotate on the other two axes. So I have full three-dimensional rotation on this object. Let's go ahead and reset that again. So again, at my first frame, I'm just going to rotate this so that it's flat on its side. Just like that. And again, we have a keyframe set there. Now I'm going to hit W. That takes me to the last frame. And I'm going to go ahead and rotate this around so it makes 180-degree rotation, ending up flat on this side. And because I had already made a keyframe at the first frame, when I went to the last frame and I made a change, it automatically created a keyframe for me at the last frame. Now if I play this back, you'll see that we have a rotating NewTek. Now one interesting trick that you can do is I'm going to select this CG, I'm going to hold the Control key down and left click and drag, and that's going to make a copy. So I just cloned the clip. I'm then going to butt that clip right up against the other one. Select that clip and go to Title. Again, with the text tool selected, I can now erase what's currently in here and type something new. Let's type TriCaster. Again, I can use my alignment tools to make sure that I'm aligned. And now we're going to play both of those clips back to back. You can see this is a very cool animated text effect and very quickly achievable inside of the Edit Media tab in your TriCaster. Okay, so if we're happy with our presentation here, again, we would just come down to the Render button, and we would render this out so that we could, again, use it as a clip in the DDR inside of the TriCaster. Now again, if you took everything out of this, if I just left-click and drag across everything except the CG, you could render just the CG out by itself as a TriCaster video. Let's go to Render, and we would render this as TriCaster Overlay, AVI with alpha channel. That would then become an animated motion graphic that you could load into the DDR and use as an overlay over any of your video. The last thing that I want to show you is, again, something that you could use in the live production environment. Very often when people bring you video, it's not the most pristine video that you've ever seen, and we need to be able to do something with it. Well, we can do it very quickly and easily with the editor inside of our TriCaster, and a prime example of something like this would be image stabilization. So let's say someone brings me a clip, and we're going to use this clip as our example. And this clip is going to be bouncing all over the place. I want to be able to stabilize this clip. To do that, I simply go to my tool shed, and the tool shed has a variety of tools. Right down here we have presets, markers, transitions, video, and wizards. I'm going to go into video, And with the video clip selected, I'm simply going to say I want to stabilize the video, and I'm going to click Perform. It's going to go ahead and analyze the video for me, and it is going to move the video around in real time and create a stabilized, non-destructive version of the stabilized video. Now, because we're working with 4:3 video in a 16:9 aspect screen, we will see the video bouncing around, but we can fix that as well. So here is our stabilized video, but as I said, we see the edges moving around. So if we wanted to, we could now simply go into our Control tab. I'm going to hit Q, and I'm going to blow the video up. Now we can see that we have our stabilized version of the video, and it's even full screen, even though we started with 4:3 content and we're working in 16:9. Again, we would be ready to render this out into a clip we could use in our DDR in our live production environment. There is also a standalone version of this editor that's a little more powerful. It's called Speed Edit. Speed Edit is also available from your NewTek reseller and could be run on an external laptop where you could prepare video and again bring it across the network for use in the TriCaster. For more information on Speed Edit, check out the NewTek website and talk to your NewTek reseller.